Works today. We are live. I hope everyone is here and that we'll get to see your comments. I think there already is a comment. Oh, look at what Scott Valente asked us. Are drinks being served? I'd like a hot mocha latte and a bagel with cream cheese. Of course, a New York bagel is the best, Scott.
I'll take that too, Scott. Thank you. As long as you're up and getting them, that would be great.
I love it. We'll show that to everyone else. So as people start to tune in, we could talk about how cold it is in New York. And
Oh,
this only just happened and it's January.
yes. It's been the weirdest weather, right? I feel like it was 70 degrees a week ago, and now it is definitely very cold. It was snowing a little bit earlier when I looked out the window. I don't know if it still is, but I think so. It's been a crazy weather cycle for sure. I'm very
Yeah.
jealous of anyone anyone attending from a warm climate. But I know our friend Scott is probably even colder than we are because I know where Scott is, it is very cold.
Very cold. And he probably has had much more snow than us because when we had a couple of inches fall, and I think they were stretching it by calling it 2 inches of snow recently, that was our first accumulation in almost 2 years. I
Yes.
don't know
Yeah.
what's happening in New York. We don't even get snow anymore.
Yeah, but that's okay with me, honestly. I don't like snow.
Oh, I like snow. I love going into Central Park after the snow while no one has been there yet. Oh, there's some. Oh, G is here. Hello. Oh, from 30-degree Dallas. I didn't
Texas
realize
is
you are
really
colder than
cold
we
right
are,
now.
I think.
Yes, Texas is crazy.
Wow.
Yes, crazy.
I know this summer they were hotter than us, and now they're colder than us. What is happening with the weather? Gee, I'm so glad you're here. Oh, and Anne, I know has had snow, and we've talked about snow days. I have a like little quick story. Her post that talked about snow days brought back some real memories for me, very strong memories, because I lived in a household where my dad was a decision maker for whether we had a snow day or not. Not for my school district, but for a neighboring one. But my school district used to call my dad because they would collaborate because you never would want to have two neighboring school districts not like close together for the snow. So we would have people knocking on our door at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Did your dad decide yet? Like,
Right.
are we having school or not? It just brought back a lot of memories of
Oh,
the phone ringing and everything. Oh, Gloria's here. Thank you for coming. So we have Anne is here and comments are working on our end. So thank you, LinkedIn. I put in all the like wishes and prayers. Gloria, thank you for jumping in. And Jason is here. It's snowing where you are. Here it's still a little bit just of flurries. Oh, and Ruth Ann. Thank you. She did something the other day that just made me smile, and it's funny because the person I did it to is sitting right next to me on the screen. Ruth Ann wrote on a Post-it something I said and then taped it to her computer, and that's one of the first interactions I had with Melissa a couple of years ago, where she said something, I wrote it on a Post-it, I took a photo and used that as my reply comment to her to show that it was really meaningful. So, that's my tip for people. If someone says something that really resonates with you, tell them. It's a great way to start the conversation. Who else is
absolutely.
here? Oh, Kimberly's here. I got to talk to her the other day for the first time.
You guys are both
Hello.
the best. Two of my favorite people. That's so exciting.
I'm so glad we're both really glad you're all here. And there's something I want to announce right now. Melissa doesn't even know about this. So give me one moment.
I'm scared, Leslie.
to- Oh, no, nothing to be scared about. I just have to like manipulate my little things here. So we've got some confetti. I love the confetti. And I want to make just a very quick announcement that this is a moment I want to celebrate my friend and co-host here, Melissa Cohen. She recently was invited to be a LinkedIn top voice. This is the blue top voice. This is beyond special. I don't even know what words to describe, but it reflects like her community, her consistency, her content, how connected she is to all of us, and all that she does beyond LinkedIn. It's an incredible honor. And I just want to say congratulations to Melissa. And it's an honor to be sitting kind of next to a blue top voice. I love it. So
Thank you.
congratulations, Melissa.
Leslie, that is so lovely. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And I I'm really grateful to you, Leslie, and to everyone here that took the time to be here today because you all make me a top voice or whatever, because it's all about community. It's all about connection. It's all about supporting one another. And you guys are all just fabulous. You all mean a lot to me personally. Leslie, you're such a special person in my life. I love that we do these monthly chats, and there's so many people here in the comments that I know are here who just support me every day, and hopefully I'm able to return the favor. So thank you, genuinely.
Oh, thank you. So, with all of that, that wasn't quite the introduction. And I want us each to introduce ourselves and then we'll get right into it and get started. So, Melissa, if you would start.
Yeah, so I'm Melissa Cohen. It is great to see everyone here today, this lovely chilly morning. I work in the fashion industry where I work on product development and production on the manufacturing and sourcing side. So that is definitely an industry that's been impacted by our topic today, artificial intelligence. And as you may have picked up from the lovely words that Leslie just said. I also really love LinkedIn and I love being here and helping others.
Oh, that I I just love like being here. And I must say that seeing you in person, it wasn't our first time last week, was just delightful.
It was
So
great.
I'm Leslie Nydick, and I help you get unstuck from conflict. I really do. I want you to hear, like, I really mean it when I say it. I love sharing my strategies for communication, negotiation, and of course, conflict here on LinkedIn. I also do it on YouTube and on my blog. I love receiving questions and I love how it starts conversations with people. So I welcome the DMs. And for now, let's get started. I want to welcome all of you, whether you've been here before with us, whether you're new to us, welcome, welcome. And I'm going to show your comments as often as possible. It seems like I've got all my fingers crossed that the LinkedIn comments are working and that you're seeing them because some of the best conversations occur in the comments during the event and after. If for some reason you don't see comments, don't worry. Keep your eyes right down here because I will be you're revolving all the comments so you can see who's saying things and it's someone you could reach out to. So let's let me get started here with the next. I'm sorry. This time I was so focused on all the comments coming through and I'm so excited that I forgot to look at what banner I have coming up. Ah. So we want to talk about AI. That's why we're all here. And I really consider this not us like dishing out like some brilliance and expertise in everything you have to do. We want this to be a conversation. And I'm going to start it with a couple of statistics, and we'll need your involvement because we want to hear some of your guesses. The question is SnapLogic did a survey and they asked employees if AI improves their work performance. What percentage do you think said yes? And we'd love to see your best guesses in the comments because this number s- surprised me. Not necessarily because it's low or high. I don't want to give a hint with that. And of course, now I'm not getting comments. Yay! Kimberly's seeing comments and welcome, Kimberly. It's great to see you. And before we get to the stat, and I will give the answer, we are real and we are not perfect. Thank you, Scott. So we did, thank you. Ooh, Anne says 85%. We've got a 60% from Priscilla. Hi, Priscilla.
That's a
Ah,
great point from us. Yes.
so without further ado, I will let you know the answer is 81%. It's interesting. Of course, and everyone could argue statistics, how big was the group that got asked, but I just thought this is interesting anyway. So we have one more before we get started with the conversation. This one was particularly interesting. Fishbowl asked this question: if you use AI tools for work, does your boss know about it? Take a guess at how many people, percentage wise, said no, their boss doesn't know. I'm going to go back to the comments and see what we've got. So, and of course, now I have to be careful because I'm not sure if 7 is the answer to the first question, survey question, or the second. I think Ruth Ann's is for this one, 30%. Could be the last one. It improves efficiency. Ah, yes. Wow, Priscilla. I thought the same thing. And I'm not seeing other comments come in. Again, you probably are commenting. Oh, now they're LinkedIn. As soon as I said that, LinkedIn
Mhm.
delivered the messages. So thank you,
Their AI is listening.
AI at work. Uh, Priscilla said 90%. We have Anne at 90%. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the next one. Oh, I keep on skipping. Does this question hint that AI is bad? No, I know, but it could.
I think that's an interesting question, though, right? Like, do people view using AI at work as something that has to be hidden or that their manager shouldn't know about? And if so, why? Right? Is it because they think that it's cheating? Is it because they think that that means they could be easily replaced by AI? Like, what's the reasoning behind that sort of fear? I think it's a great question.
Yes. And the answer is 68%. Initially, I was surprised by that. The more we talk about it, maybe we're not so surprised, but 68%. And that could become part of the question. How does management view our use of AI? And I'm going to talk about later how I view it when I'm an instructor of a course at NYU. And it's a very interesting debate that's been going on in many universities. So we'll talk about that. So let's now get started with the conversation. The big question, and I'll ask Melissa to answer it. How are you using AI or not using AI, whether it's at work or at home? What's working for you and what's not?
So, as a couple of people have said in the comments, I think a lot of us use AI and we don't even know it, right? It's not a new technology. It's gotten so much publicity and so much conversation in the last, 6 months or so, mainly driven by the rollout of ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT has become the hot topic because it's the first time that anyone as unknowledgeable, if that's a word, about AI as me, even, can use generative AI, right? And generative AI is sort of a newer concept. I think, there was always artificial intelligence, there was always machine learning, not always, obviously, but for a long time, there's been these concepts and these things, but we either didn't know that we were already using them or we just didn't even think about them. Now, with generative AI, it's become a hot topic. Um, it is very useful in the fashion industry. I think one of the biggest things that it's being used for is trend prediction, right? Trend analysis. What would take a human hours and hours and hours of research and combing through social media and combing through online platforms to see what trends are happening, what images are showing up, what are influencers wearing. AI can do this in minutes. And so AI has been very disruptive as far as fashion trend analysis and trend prediction. There's companies such as H&M that are using it in a different way, right? They have something called Creator Studio where people can just go in and use their AI platform to create sort of their own customized, sort of products and buy them. I think in the manufacturing side, where I'm seeing the most use in the industry is with 3D avatars, which have been super helpful as far as helping with fit, with the way fabric looks and feels. Well, not feels, sorry, but looks and drapes on the body. If you have the right avatar, you don't necessarily need to make a sample, ship it overseas, hire a fit model, do a fitting. You can do all of this in 3D, which is time efficient, money efficient, and it's also, one would argue, environmentally friendly because you're not making that sample, you're not shipping it overseas. Now, of course, there can be a whole debate about the carbon footprint of working electronically and all of that, but I think those are the main ways that I see the fashion industry using it right now. And there's definitely tons of others. I mean, supply chain can leverage AI and blockchain in a big way. But for my day to day, these are the things that I'm really seeing.
So interesting, and especially where you said, ChatGPT, like, brought it to the forefront that AI is here. It was already here, and that's something that I really have thought about. Like, I've had conversations with chatbots before. They've helped me track a package. They may have helped me renew an agreement with a service provider. And by the way, some of those chatbots are very generous with giving discounts. I don't know what I said to get them, but I'm glad that was programmed in. Um, the one thing is, I've not been a big AI user in terms of increasing, like with ChatGPT and all the apps and everything that's available to us, because I haven't been able to satisfy my two priorities. One is save me time and provide quality. The time is become an issue where I'll try something, I'm like, oh, this is taking more time than it did before. I'm just going to do it my manual way. I think that's going to change, especially as we hear from the audience how you're using it. I'm going to try other ways, but that's definitely my focus. I think that I've used it to like review a headline or a hook. And what I got back was quite disappointing. I was like, mine's better. And they didn't even point out a word that I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't even think of that word. Let me use it. No. Um, what I look forward to doing, though, is researching ideas similar to what Melissa mentioned, trends, finding out like testing titles or titles of courses that I'm going to offer for maximum appeal and to focus on what trends are happening, what people are looking for. And I think it would be fun to generate images as such. And I know Kimberly did a whole bunch of them yesterday, and she even was looking for a vote. She created a bunch of herself, and she wanted to know which one was the favorite. I still hesitate a little bit from that. Maybe it's my, like, art and photography background where I'm like, "Ah, I'll do," I'd rather create it myself. But I do believe these are powerful tools. It's a matter of finding the tools that match up with what you're doing, not to create more work, to create less work, and to gather that information that would be impossible for us to gather on our own. And I think it can support us and not replace us. But that's even more why I'm so disappointed to hear that people have to hide what they're doing from their boss. Because if they're being more efficient, wouldn't that be something you want to share? Like, oh, wow, I figured out a way to do this task with this app. And now, oh, I have another hour today to work on something else. So it's seen as cheating versus being more efficient. And that I see as the negative. We definitely
I,
have some more comments, so I wanna pull some of them up if Melissa wants to add something.
I think it's definitely a mindset shift, right? I think the technology is still considered somewhat new in a lot of ways, even though it's not. And I think over time, it's going to be viewed in a different light. I think right now, it's definitely viewed a little bit by some people as cheating or by not being wholly honest. I think there's also a whole bunch of legality that comes out of some of these things, like who owns certain things. If you create an image with artificial intelligence, who owns it? If you write something with artificial intelligence, who owns it? And what happens with that data? Like when we're all putting data into ChatGPT, what happens with it? How private is it? What is it used for later on? Um,
Yes.
Me personally, I don't use it very much for writing. I like to write on my own. I've definitely used it to like sort of brainstorm a couple of ideas. And I know it's all about like it's garbage in, garbage out, right? You really have to fine tune your prompts and you have to really iterate and iterate. Um, I don't really use it much for that. What I do enjoy using it for, and I'm not very good at it yet, but it's fun, is I really like to generate images. I think that's a real use for me as far as generating images for social media or just for fun. And there's a couple of people who do it really, really well on LinkedIn, and I've been trying to learn from them. So there's a shout out to a friend of mine, Leonard Rodman. He posts pretty much daily these incredible image posts of things that he's been able to do in all sorts of platforms, Dolly and Midjourney and a whole bunch of
Yes.
others that I haven't even heard of before. And he's
Wow.
fantastic. So I really enjoy playing around with that. And I think that that's a lot of fun. And I think you're right. It is interesting that we feel, or a lot of people feel, that we have to hide this. Um, and I think it really is a mindset shift. And I think right now there's still a concern that bosses are going to view it as taking an easy way out or cheating or being
Sure.
lazy in some fashion. And I think that that will change over time.
I think so. And I did find it interesting that as soon as ChatGPT launched, there were many conversations going on university campuses because they knew immediately it was going to impact the classroom. And as an adjunct instructor at NYU, I teach a couple of courses a year. uh, no surprise, one of them is conflict management. I also teach negotiation and communication and related topics. And the ongoing discussion of how to use it in the classroom, there's the group that are like, no, keep it all out, along the lines of thinking that it's all plagiarism if you use those tools. And like Melissa, I haven't even really been using it that way to ask it to write something for me. So I wasn't opposed to it at all because I thought of it in the different way of research, gathering information. That can really help in the classroom. So I think it was important. I set guidelines. The students try to push those boundaries when they use it for research and gathering ideas or even writing an outline or the bullet points but not the text, it's worked out great. Those who have pushed it further and used it for their writing, I I don't think I necessarily have the best eye for this, but I notice it right away because their voice is not in those words, and it's quite obvious that they didn't write it. And that's where it's back to this can save us tremendous amount of time to do research. Of course, we've got to figure out better ways to fact check. Just because it got dished out doesn't mean it's true, and that's become a problem, and there's a whole bunch of biases with, "Well, I've seen that information 10 times, so it must be true." So, we've run into that problem, but we're gonna create more effective ways. I just think if you fight it and say you can't use it, um, they're gonna use it, and perhaps the survey about the employees will be very similar to students. "Oh, yeah, I'm using it, but I won't tell my instructor because they're not gonna like it." I want them to tell me how they used it. It's a great way to share, like, "Hey, how can we do better research? How do we figure out what's true and what's not so true?"
So you raised so many interesting points, Leslie. I mean, one, I think bias in AI is real, because it's been trained by people, right? And who are the most prevalent trainers of AI? Men. And that's fine. But it definitely has shown that there's bias, gender bias, and a lot of other biases because of who has trained AI, right? It learns from people. And until we get a much broader representation of the population doing this work, I think those biases are going to continue. You definitely touched on the sort of whole hallucination phenomenon, right? Where ChatGPT will just sometimes come up with something that's just factually inaccurate, but it sounds like it knows what it's talking about. And so we just take it at its worth. So I would always say, fact check anything like that. Um, but the education one is super interesting to me. So my daughter is a college freshman, and, a lot of colleges and universities are really grappling with, to your point, how exactly do we get our arms around this? Um, because, these are kids, these are teenagers, young adults, and they've grown up in a digital age, right? Whereas most of us have not. And what I appreciated about certain of her professors is that they had a very clear policy. You can use AI, but you need to be forthcoming about it. You need to say, what did you use it for? How much of your work was, with the assistance of AI? And I think it's great to use AI to brainstorm, to research, to do outlines and things like that, but obviously not to write your entire paper. And I think that's really the key distinction. It should be used to help enhance what you're doing, not to do it for you. And it is easy to tell right now when something is completely written by AI, right? We see it on LinkedIn all the time. How many times have we said, "Oh boy, that post is completely, AI generated"? You can just tell it's not the person's voice. It's not a normal way of speaking. There's some just very big giveaways. I assume as the technology improves and as more and more people use it and it's better trained and better educated itself, then that's going to lessen. But for now, it's pretty easy in a lot of cases to tell. And, I think that's a real risk with writing entire papers in AI for sure. I mean, and the fact that I just don't think ethically that's the right thing to do.
Exactly. So well said. And I just have to say again, thank you, LinkedIn, for letting these comments flow.
So
I am
cool.
so looking forward to not only the advice and ideas that are in the comments, but continuing the conversation with all of you for the rest of the day and beyond, because there's so much that I don't know. And I know for me, I'll hear something like, "Oh, you should use such and such." And I try it, it takes too much time. Like, there's so much we could share to figure out and kind of weave through all of this. And I wanted to get back to one very interesting stat. Thank you, Oz. There's research that showed that less than 15% of educators know how to use AI. And I'm gonna give a little, like, great shout out to NYU because I'll tell you, like, the day after ChatGPT came out, there were conferences, there were online Zoom meetings, first talking about, like, "What is it? Let's all try it." And I think them just getting excited and hesitant at the same time got everyone to really engage. So I think from what I've seen at NYU, the percentage is much higher. But I'm not surprised at the 15% because I have spoken to people at other universities or even, in high schools and other levels of schools where they're just like, let's wait and see. And I don't think we can wait and see. So I really want to thank everybody. And let me get to because we want to honor your time. This is the fastest half hour on LinkedIn. So says
So
us. Melissa said it first. And we love being here. This is February 9th is already scheduled. We hope you'll put it on your calendar. We'll definitely pick a timely topic. Melissa and I have different experiences, different careers. It makes for a very interesting conversation, not just between us, but with you too. So thank you for being here. We couldn't do it if you weren't here. And we look forward to the comments, and we're going to be there. And I hope that Melissa is willing to do some closing words to say goodbye.
absolutely. I mean, Leslie really said it all. We so appreciate your spending this half hour with us, and you guys really drove the conversation. Really appreciate everybody's perspective and experiences. We are so fortunate that we had some real AI experts here today who really could add a lot of value. And much as Leslie said, I am absolutely going back to these comments and taking some of this advice. There's some great advice here on AI generated meeting recorders, right? Like I've used Otter and things like that. But there's some great suggestions here. So I encourage everyone to do the same. And thank you guys so much for spending part of your Friday with us.
Thank you, everyone.